He built the first pyramid, but that wasn't his greatest gift. Most remember him as the architect of the first pyramid, but his greatest structure was built inside the human mind. Imhotep changed the skyline of ancient Egypt. Before him, no one had dared to stack stone in layers that climbed toward the sky. The Step Pyramid of Saqqara was a miracle of engineering, alignment, and ambition. But it wasn't the pyramid that made Imhotep immortal. It was what it represented, the leap from mortality to something more. The pyramid was more than a tomb. It was a statement, a declaration that human beings could think beyond survival and create monuments to meaning. That structure, rising from desert sands, was proof that vision could defeat limitation. Imhotep didn't just pile stones, he shaped eternity. But beyond the physical, his greatest gift was the merging of disciplines. In a world that divided knowledge into isolated silos, magic, medicine, architecture, astronomy, Imhotep fused them. He saw the connection between stars and structures, between numbers and nature, between health and harmony. He didn't just design buildings, he designed systems, ways of thinking, ways of healing, ways of being human, and that's where his true brilliance lies. Imhotep's influence on medicine is perhaps his most underrated contribution. He was the first recorded physician in history. Long before Hippocrates, he studied disease and anatomy. He didn't treat illness as punishment from gods. He examined symptoms, made observations, offered treatments. He kept records. He taught others. He brought science into sacred spaces. In his temples, healing wasn't just about herbs and surgeries. It was about restoring balance, body, mind, and spirit. He understood that to truly heal someone, you had to understand more than just the wound. You had to understand the person. His teachings formed the foundation for Egyptian medical knowledge for centuries, and even when his writings were lost to time, his name remained a symbol of healing. Doctors invoked him, patients prayed to him, statues of Imhotep were kept in homes, hospitals, and holy places. He gave the world the blueprint for holistic healing long before the term existed. Even in architecture, his ideas echoed across time. The pyramid wasn't just a tomb. It was aligned with celestial bodies. It channeled energy. It embodied cosmic order. It was a spiritual machine, designed not just to house the dead, but to connect the living with the divine. That's what set Imhotep apart. He didn't see stone as dead material. He saw it as part of a greater living system. Every block, every angle, every chamber was intentional. His work was sacred geometry in action. So yes, he built the first pyramid, but his true gift was what he built inside people. Wonder, curiosity, reverence, and the courage to imagine something more. He built bridges between the seen and the unseen, between knowledge and mystery, between earth and sky. His greatest creation wasn't the pyramid. It was the idea that human thought, when aligned with divine order, could build miracles. The multi-talented master who defied time. Time forgets most names, but not his. Imhotep was not one thing. He was many: an architect, a physician, a priest, a philosopher, a poet, a scientist, a sage. In today's world, we separate these roles. In his time, he unified them, and that's why he couldn't be erased. He defied the limits of his era and the limits of every era after him. In a world where specialization often limits greatness, Imhotep expanded in every direction. He mastered the body through medicine, mastered matter through architecture, and mastered meaning through philosophy. He was the original Renaissance man, except he came thousands of years before the Renaissance. His architecture changed Egypt forever. The Step Pyramid wasn't just a building, it was a revolution. It introduced stone as a primary material. It introduced planning on a scale no one had attempted, and it worked. That structure still stands, after over 4,500 years, defying both weather and time. His medical influence went deeper. He didn't just heal individuals, he reshaped how people thought about healing. He proved that knowledge could serve the divine, that science didn't replace the sacred, it revealed it. As High Priest of Heliopolis, Imhotep also shaped Egypt's spiritual life. He interpreted the movement of stars. He performed sacred rituals. He organized festivals. People trusted him to read the signs of heaven and guide the fate of a kingdom. He wrote hymns, carved rituals, studied the flow of the Nile, calculated time, and possibly even contributed to early mathematics. Every piece of knowledge, every sacred act, every observation, he folded them together like threads in a divine tapestry. Most people are remembered for one achievement. Imhotep is remembered for shaping an entire civilization. Even after death, his influence only grew. The Egyptians made him a god of wisdom and healing. The Greeks honored him. The Romans respected him. In medieval texts, his name still flickered like an ember of ancient light. What makes Imhotep so unique isn't just his knowledge, it's his harmony. He didn't chase fame or power. He served truth. He balanced intellect with humility, science with spirit, power with peace. That balance is why he lasted. While other names crumbled with their monuments, Imhotep's name endured. Because he didn't just build on the earth, he built in consciousness. Today we still talk about pyramids, about holistic healing, about sacred architecture. Every time we do, we're echoing his voice. Imhotep didn't fear time. He mastered it, not by conquering it, but by creating something it couldn't destroy. Wisdom. He was many things, but above all, he was a reminder of what's possible when one life chooses to serve, not just a king, but the entire human journey. And in that service, he became timeless. Why ancient priests feared and worshipped Imhotep. They didn't just admire him, they trembled in his presence. In a land where gods walked in statues and pharaohs ruled as living deities, one man stood outside the system, and above it, Imhotep, a mortal with divine intelligence, a priest among priests, but also something more. The ancient clergy feared him because he knew things they didn't. He wasn't repeating rituals, he was decoding the universe behind them, and that made him both sacred and dangerous. Imhotep wasn't born into power, he earned it. His rise was almost unnatural. In an age of strict castes and inherited roles, he ascended like no one else in Egypt's long history. From a commoner to high priest of Heliopolis, chief architect, vizier, and eventually a god. Not metaphorically, literally, temples were built to honor him, offerings were made in his name, people prayed to him for healing. The priests, gatekeepers of sacred knowledge, realized something unsettling. Imhotep was rewriting the code. He wasn't just practicing religion, he was pulling back the curtain. While others studied gods, Imhotep thought like one. He mastered medicine, astronomy, architecture, philosophy, and worse for the priesthood, he taught others. His knowledge wasn't locked away in mystery. It was shared, recorded, systematized. That made him a threat. Knowledge was power. In ancient Egypt, it was control. If the common man could understand the stars, the body, or the secrets of stone, the priests lost their monopoly on the sacred. Imhotep, with his open mind and open hands, became a double-edged sword, a savior to the people, a rival to the elite. But over time, fear turned into reverence. The more his miracles stacked up, healing diseases, predicting floods, building impossible structures, the more impossible it became to see him as merely mortal. They didn't just accept his power, they sanctified it. It was better to call him divine than to admit a man had bested their gods. He became son of Ptah, the god of craftsmen. Later, the Greeks merged him with their own healing deity, Asclepius. His temples became pilgrimage sites for the sick and dying. His name became a whisper in sacred rituals, and his legend only grew stronger with time. The irony, the priests who once feared him helped immortalize him. They carved his name in stone, taught his story, and led the prayers that would keep his memory alive for millennia. Because deep down, they knew Imhotep wasn't just a man of power. He was a mirror. He showed them what was possible and what they had failed to become. The Step Pyramid, a code of lost ancient power. It wasn't just a tomb, it was a message in stone. The Step Pyramid of Saqqara isn't just the oldest pyramid in Egypt, It's the first of its kind in human history. No one had ever attempted anything like it, and yet it didn't collapse, it didn't erode. It stood the test of time, because it wasn't just architecture, it was encoded energy, a cosmic machine built by a man who understood far more than we give him credit for. Imhotep didn't pile stone on stone. He layered meanings, 6 levels, 6 worlds, 6 stages of spiritual ascent. Each tier of the pyramid represented a phase of transformation, from earthbound body to celestial soul. It wasn't just designed for the dead pharaoh, it was a guidebook for the soul's journey, a resurrection engine. Think about it. Every angle of the pyramid was carefully calculated to align with constellations. The burial chamber was buried deep below, like the seed of life returning to the womb of the earth. The structure rose upward in steps, as if inviting the spirit to climb. This wasn't superstition, it was geometry as theology. Hidden inside the complex were dozens of chambers, false doors and underground passages, like a riddle meant to be solved only by the worthy. Imhotep wasn't hiding the body of a king, he was hiding knowledge. Knowledge that may have included star maps, healing rituals, and sacred formulas for eternal consciousness. The pyramid's orientation mimics the rising of Sirius, the star associated with Isis, rebirth, and the Nile flood. Coincidence? No. Imhotep knew time wasn't linear. It was cyclical. He didn't just measure space, he measured when energy would align. The pyramid wasn't just built on Earth, it was synced with the heavens. And what about the materials? Massive limestone blocks, precisely cut, interlocked like puzzle pieces. Modern engineers still debate how this was possible with Bronze Age tools. Was it advanced mathematics, resonance technology, forgotten machinery? Whatever the method, the outcome is clear. The pyramid channels stability, harmony, and permanence. Some even believe the Step Pyramid was an initiatory structure used to awaken the inner senses. Just like the Great Pyramid later became a candidate for energy healing theories, the Step Pyramid may have been the prototype, a chamber where the vibration of stone, sacred chants, and alignment with the stars activated dormant parts of human consciousness. The real question is this: did Imhotep embed a code, one that modern science hasn't cracked? A code that teaches how to survive death, how to heal without medicine, how to ascend without dying? If so, the Step Pyramid isn't just a relic, it's a message. And it's still waiting for someone who can read it. Was Imhotep the real father of modern medicine? He healed with herbs, but also with knowledge. Long before Hippocrates walked the Greek Isles, before Galen dissected a pig, before modern hospitals and labs, there was Imhotep. And what he understood about the human body rivals what we know now. This wasn't guesswork, this wasn't myth. Imhotep was the first true physician, whose name and reputation echoed through time. He didn't just treat illness, he studied it, diagnosed it, categorized it. His name is linked to the Edwin Smith Papyrus, the oldest known surgical text in history. This ancient scroll, dating back to around 1600 BCE, but believed to be copies of Imhotep's original work, includes instructions on brain injuries, spinal trauma, and internal bleeding. And here's what's wild. He approached medicine scientifically. For each injury, the papyrus includes a diagnosis, treatment plan, and prognosis. Some cases even end with, "This cannot be treated." That means he knew the limits of medicine. He wasn't pretending to be a magician. He was doing clinical trials in the age of pyramids. He used honey for its antibacterial properties, thousands of years before we had the word antibiotic. He knew how to set fractures, stitch wounds, and treat infections. He had a system for monitoring pulse, breath, and behavioral symptoms. These weren't superstitions, they were observations, applied with precision. But Imhotep's medicine wasn't just physical. He understood the body as part of a larger system: mind, spirit, environment. His healing involved rituals, yes, but those rituals had rhythm, frequency, sound, and psychological effect. He blended what we now divide: psychology, medicine, and spirituality. And that's where modern science struggles to catch up. Today we separate the doctor from the soul, the prescription from the intention. But Imhotep saw the body as a vessel of the divine. Healing it wasn't just about fixing it, was about harmonizing. Even centuries after his death, his reputation as a healer kept growing. The Greeks were so moved by his legacy that they absorbed him into their own mythology. By the time of the Ptolemies, temples to Imhotep were filled with votive offerings from people begging for healing, just like pilgrims at Lourdes or Mecca today. They called him the one who comes in peace, a title not given to warlords or kings, but to healers. His shrine at Deir el-Bahari became a sanctuary of hope. People slept in healing chambers, hoping Imhotep would visit them in dreams and cure them. So ask yourself, if a man in the 27th century BCE was already mapping diseases, using antiseptics, and applying clinical logic, what have we really discovered since then? We've added machines, we've made things faster. But Imhotep's medicine had one thing modern science still chases: wholeness. He didn't just ask, what's wrong? He asked, what's missing? That's not just medicine, that's mastery. The man who made kings kneel for wisdom. In a land where pharaohs were gods and their word was law, one man rose so high in wisdom that even kings listened in silence when he spoke. That man was Imhotep. He was born a commoner, yet he became the voice behind the throne. His mind was sharper than any sword, and his counsel carried more weight than any army. Pharaoh Djoser, the ruler of all Egypt, bowed to Imhotep's ideas, not out of fear, but out of awe. Imhotep wasn't just an advisor. He was the architect of legacy, the master of healing, the priest of divine mysteries. In an age where royal blood was everything, Imhotep became irreplaceable not through lineage, but through pure intellect. It's hard to grasp just how rare this was. Egyptian society was a rigid hierarchy, yet Imhotep broke through every barrier, not by force, but by insight. When Pharaoh Djoser dreamed of eternal life, it was Imhotep who translated that dream into stone, the Step Pyramid, the first of its kind. This wasn't just a tomb, it was a statement that divine power could be reached through design, that eternity could be shaped by human hands, and that one man's wisdom could change the way humanity buried its dead forever. Imhotep didn't need gold or armies. His tools were symbols, structures, and sacred science. He understood balance, not just in architecture but in life. He knew how to heal the body, how to align the stars with sacred buildings, how to counsel kings with calm authority. Even in the pharaoh's court, surrounded by nobles and priests, Imhotep stood apart. He was consulted in matters of state, ritual, and medicine, and when he spoke, even royalty fell quiet. What kind of presence must he have carried? To walk into rooms meant for gods, and not only stand tall, but be welcomed. To advise the divine kings of Egypt, and become divine himself in the eyes of generations.
We have to remember, in that time, to be named in history without being royal was nearly impossible. Yet Imhotep's name survived dynasties. It outlived kings. It was whispered in temples, carved into scrolls, and invoked in prayers centuries after his death. And it wasn't just Egypt.
The Greeks compared him to Asclepius, the god of healing. The Romans left offerings in his name. Across empires and eras, Imhotep's legend never faded. He didn't kneel for power. Power knelt for him, because real authority comes not from titles but from truth. Imhotep lived that truth. He didn't demand loyalty, he inspired reverence. In the story of human civilization, there are warriors who conquered, kings who ruled, and prophets who preached, but very few who made kings kneel. Not with threats, but with thought. Not with force, but with wisdom. Imhotep was one of them, and perhaps the first.